Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm talking about a film that I've actually been looking forward to for a while, but unfortunately the pandemic kind of pushed back multiple times. But it is a film that's been in development for a while. Will Smith has been attached to this movie for a while, and that's the movie King Richard. King Richard is a film that is based off of the life of Richard Williams and how he managed to coach both his daughters Serena Williams and Venus Williams to be the best tennis superstars in the world. And so basically, what this film is Richard Williams finding out that two of his daughters, because I think he has five daughters in this movie, that two of his daughters are really good at tennis. He starts them off really small. He gets them really good coaches, though. He gets them people that will kind of talk about how good they are if they perform really well in tennis matches. He starts them off really small, like I said, and then he works them up to the junior matches and then eventually up to the pro matches. And so this film kind of follows how they got the attention, what are some roadblocks they had along the way, what kind of neighborhood did they live in, how come they managed to, or how did they manage to basically still live the good life, but still have kind of this bad stuff going on in the background in this neighborhood that they lived in. How did they get noticed and eventually move to Florida and really kind of kick off their tennis careers and still pursue school and all that kind of stuff. And so basically, King Richard does pursue that story of who noticed them, what were kind of the matches that really got them noticed, what were some offers that they had along the way, like Reebok and Nike and other like major shoe companies and companies that focus on athletic wear that really wanted them to sign and kind of let them promote their product and all this stuff that happened along the way with coaches and how some of them left, some of them stayed. Some of them stayed, but they had frustrations with Richard and his decisions with his own daughters. And the film ultimately asked the question: was he too hard on them? Was the stuff that he did as a coach and as a father and as a friend to his two daughters the necessary ingredients to basically becoming the successful tennis stars that they are today? Was it really that big push? Was it really that big tennis match, or all the practicing or all the hours of practicing that kind of made them the people that they are today and made them the tennis superstars that they are today, as they both are considered the best within the tennis sport? And obviously they both appear in talk shows, and I think one of them does Subway commercials now and things like that. And so basically this film shows us basically the path to success that they eventually had and what led them into basically the tennis superstardoms that they are today. But overall, guys, I really enjoyed King Richard. One thing I will probably say right off the bat, too, is I do like the fact that this film does focus on Richard a lot, as his coaching and his journey to his daughter's success really is kind of, once again, a key ingredient to this movie and how this movie works, and kind of some stuff that he dealt with behind the scenes as well, while his two daughters were eventually finding success in tennis and found the right people and the right kind of attention and things like that. I guess right off the bat, too, going into positives and negatives, for one of my positives of this movie, Will Smith's performance is just top notch here. I've been a huge lifelong fan of Will Smith. I remember specifically watching Men in Black as a kid, watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air as a kid, if I can speak correctly, and just watching him and just loving his charisma and loving his sense of humor and loving his sense of drama, and all that stuff that you love about Will Smith is here in this movie. He brings Richard Williams to life in all the right ways. And once again, like in most biopics, they show kind of real footage of the real person at the end of the movie. And it just further proves how talented he is and just how well he understood the whole Richard Williams person as from reality, and just really brought him to screen in all the right ways, including just wearing his outfits, making him walk a certain way, making him speak a certain way around certain people. He just, everything I could ask for in Will Smith's performance was in this movie. Whether he wins the Oscar or not, we'll have to leave to the Film Academy, but Will Smith's performance is just really strong here. I just absolutely loved his acting performance in this movie. Also, the two actresses that they found to play a young Serena Williams and a young Venus Williams are both very strong here. There's a lot of scenes where they bond as sisters, but there's also scenes where one of them gets more attention than the other, and so the film plays off of that. And there's certain scenes where, like, they get offered an offer by Nike or offered by Adidas, and obviously it's really tempting because it's a lot of money, and it'll kind of set them financially for life if the deal goes through and things like that. And so the film kind of plays off of what's going on in their heads and going on in Richard's heads. And it just really does a great job getting the best performances possible out of the three lead characters in this movie. As I would say, Richard, Serena, and Venus are kind of the three key people of this movie, and ultimately what makes the film so successful is the film does dedicate a lot of time to them. We do kind of get to know their psyche and kind of what they're going through as success occurs and as failure occurs, and how they kind of moved forward from both things as both things occurred, and how they handled success and things like that. And so, performance-wise, I have no complaints. The acting is just top-notch across the board in this movie. I also like how this film had places, people, and settings and scenarios that all felt real. Like every tennis court felt like a real tennis court. Every tournament they went to felt like a real tournament, whether it was making the stands full of people or having things going on behind the scenes that really felt like things that probably do happen in real professional tennis matches and things like that. It's just one of those movies where you just kind of forget you're watching a movie. You're just kind of sucked into the experience. You really do kind of believe that the actress who plays Serena is Serena for this 2 hours, and you really believe that the actress who plays Venus is Venus for this next 2.5 hours, and you really believe that just Will Smith is Richard in this movie, and so you just kind of forget that you're watching a bunch of actors and actresses on screen. You really feel like you're watching this real life experience unfold in front of you on film, and just really kind of, like I said, all the places, people, and settings just all feel completely real here, and I thought they did a great job handling that in this movie. The film also has an interesting take on fearing failure and going at your own pace to find success, and I think both messages are very strong here. There's just a lot of scenes where you can tell Richard is very scared of his daughters eventually encountering failure during this journey and kind of how he handles it. Why he's very vocal on certain things, why he keeps interrupting interviews with them when they're being interviewed by TV reporters, and then going at your own pace. The film does have a great message on if you're in the beginning phase, stay in the beginning phase for a while. If you're in the junior phase, stay in that junior phase for a while. And then when you eventually reach the pros, really go hard at it. Really kind of prove that you're the best at that point. Really find the best of the best to compete against, so that by the time you really want to get that trophy, or you really want to get that deal with Nike or Adidas, that you get it right away. That the second you enter that tennis match, whether you win or you lose, you're going to get that offer. You're going to be the best of the world. Every sport company is going to want to be associated with you and want you to advertise their product and want you to be the best athlete you can be and things like that. So I really like the film's take on fearing failure, how sometimes you have to be able to fear failure when you're in this big professional match, and when you're going at your own pace, that there is such thing as possibly going too slow with it, but also kind of finding the right kind of pace to go at the same time. And so I thought the film managed both messages really well in this movie. But for my negatives of King Richard, there is a lot of scenes near the beginning, I would say in the first half in particular, that involve Richard kind of not getting along very well with some gangs in Compton that they encounter every once in a while in the film. And this conflict kind of gets completely dropped off at one point. I would say the second that the family moves to Florida and really pursues the tennis thing, the whole Compton gang thing gets completely dropped. I guess the reason why I personally didn't care for it too much in this movie is it really is just one of those things where every once in a while they'll show up in the movie, make Richard's life hell for like 2 minutes, and they just kind of disappear, and then they show up in a later scene, same thing happens again. Maybe the film is making the point that when they lived in Compton, California, that there was a lot of gang violence, and there was a lot of times where Richard himself had to deal with like a fist fight with one of them or something. I understand why it's there. I think for a film like this, specifically about the success that led to Serena and Venus finding the success that they did, I think you could have it in there, but I think they could have just had it much smaller than they did. The film is already about 2.5 hours, so it's already a pretty long runtime as it is. I thought the whole thing with this Compton gang, specifically the fact that they kept bringing it up in the first half, really kind of invaded the film too much for me personally. And I thought that the conflict, though I understood why it existed in this movie, it didn't really need to be there to begin with. Maybe it would be a good director's cut, maybe, but for me personally, I thought it could have been trimmed from the movie. Another thing that could have been trimmed from the movie is there's a big, not really a big, but I would say once again, the first half of the film where they're living in Compton, California, there's a neighbor that doesn't like the Williams family. You know, she doesn't like Richard on her property. She doesn't like Serena or Venus on her property either. The film really doesn't do anything with it. There's just like one scene where she does call the cops on them and stuff, but um, once again, kind of like the whole Compton gang thing. I felt like every time she showed up, she's just kind of there to make them feel bad for a couple minutes, and they just kind of move on to the next thing. Once again, maybe would have made a nice director's cut, but for a theatrical release movie like this, I don't think it needed to be in there. I think it really kind of detracted from what the film was trying to do. Um, didn't need to be in there. The whole mean neighbor thing I thought could also been trimmed out of the movie. And for the most part, too, even though this is a biopic movie, like a lot of things that are based off true stories, I thought the way that the film was structured was very standard to most biopics. I didn't really feel like this biopic was trying to do anything different with the genre. It didn't really feel like they were trying to make Richard the narrator of the story, or it didn't really have a specific narrative to the point where it's like, oh, that's the exact way to tell King Richard, or that's the exact way to tell the story of Serena and Venus finding success for tennis. It just had a very standard biopic approach. So even though this isn't bad, I just felt like there was a lot of times where they really weren't trying to make something completely unique with how this biopic was structured. Just a personal preference. Maybe people will like that it is more of a standard form of a biopic, but for me personally, I thought there was times where they could have found the way to make the voice and the narrative more original in this, as there is a lot of times where it is a little beat for beat as far as following the biopic formula goes. But overall, I'm going to give King Richard an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's a really good movie. I think there's a lot of great things about it, like Will Smith's performance and the two actresses that play Serena and Venus in this. But like I said, there's a lot of things that could have been trimmed, like the whole Compton gang thing. The mean neighbor elements could have been trimmed out. And then, like I said, there really could have been times where they could have just made more than just a standard approach to the biopic, really make it stand out, have its own voice and things like that. But overall, like I said, 8.5 out of 10 for me. I really enjoy this movie. I highly recommend seeing it. I'm sure we'll see Will Smith at the Oscars at least, and hopefully these two young actresses who play Serena and Venus in this too, as the acting in this is top notch. 8.5 out of 10 for me. I really enjoyed King Richard, and I do recommend it.